Hey everybody, welcome to this week's live stream. I hope you're all doing great today. So we are going to turn up the fall colors blanks, and I think these turned out pretty good. I'm pretty excited about these. So here they are in all their glory. But I'm really happy with the color palette on these. They really look like that thumbnail that I pulled a picture of like leaves, I guess. That was what I was going for, was the changing colors of the leaves. So I've got a pen ready to go here, or the blanks ready. We're going to go with the Virage. I know that we kind of talked about maybe like a antique brass kit, but I didn't really have anything that I really thought was going to be a good fit. And I think I mentioned the Virage rollerball. It's a little bit different than the Virage, like Sierra. I don't know if I have any of those. Sierra style. It's similar to that one, but let's see. Do I have any of those? I don't think I have any of the regular ones. Do I have one sitting around somewhere? I like the Virage. It's a pretty cool kit. It's a little bit lighter and like kind of smaller. So it's similar to like the Junior series. Here's one. Similar to the Junior series, but a little bit smaller. It's more like the Junior. There's like a lower quality Junior Gent, like Junior Gent versus Junior Gent 2 or something like that. So this is the regular Virage. And it's like a Sierra, but I like the different, angles on it or curves and all that stuff. So that's a pretty good kit for a single. And then you kind of have like a similar look on like the nib end, a little bit smaller. See what I mean? Like it's a smaller pen, a little bit dainty, if you will. But it has kind of similar curves and all that kind of good stuff. I just like it. So I went with a gunmetal. I don't know if that's the right choice or not either. I had gold. Didn't really like the gold. There was just too much gold going on for me, and like a shiny gold. And then I had like a chrome, which would have gone good, but I don't know. I kind of like this darker gunmetal. So we'll see how this all goes. I don't know. And I don't know. I don't know where I got these. I think I got them at Turner's Warehouse. I'm not sure if they still carry them or not right now. But there's lots of little parts. Now, your Junior bushings are not going to work. If you have like the Junior Gent 2, the standard kind of Junior bushings, they don't work on this. It's a smaller kit. So just be aware of that. You might have to get special bushings. But here's the blank. I'm pretty excited about this. So it's got all those colors, colors in it. It's got like a little bit of that kind of red, the green. Got some like kind of gold. Now I went with a slightly different gold, the Aztec gold, which I think that was a really good idea. It's Pearlex. And you can probably, we tried finding like a similar one. It's a little bit more like an orangish gold. So that compares to, sometimes it's hard to just look at just like that, but like Olympic gold, which is like your kind of standard gold, a little bit more yellow, where this is more like orange. So I thought that would be a pretty good color. We went with orange as well. So we went with some tangerine in there. And I think that's it. Let me look at my notes. We went with, what did we go with? Oh yeah, camo green, wine red. Oh yeah, and we also went with a little bit of brown, a cafe latte from P-Town. So you got a little bit of that kind of darker, like brownish color. You got some orange, some gold, like orangish gold, red, and green. So I think it's a good mix. I don't know. You'll have to let me know. And then we'll see how it turns out. I don't know, I don't know how it's going to turn out. That's why we're turning it. And then these blanks are going to be going into the Pen Blank Club subscription box this month. One little quick announcement. So let's see. Let me look at the calendar here. I think, what day is this? October 4th. All right, so next week I will be in the shop, but we're going to be taking off on the 18th. I'm not going to be in the shop. So we'll make some blanks next week, but then we're going to have to skip over. And I got to think about it. I need to work on my ornament. I have been so busy. So one other quick announcement. The temperatures have dropped again in the shop, and it's back to happy times in the shop. The resin is flowing perfectly. And I also got another batch of fresh resin from Alumilite, and it's working. I got to be honest, it's actually working even better than the stuff that I got from Turner's Warehouse. Now, I don't know if that has to do with the temperature in the shop, probably a little bit, but this stuff is operating. It's weird. There's like a better consistency to it. I don't know. Maybe there was some weird bad batch period coming from Alumilite. I don't know. I think the temperatures in the shop just kind of screwed things up. And the other thing that I'm not chilling this stuff anymore. I'm done with that because the temperatures in the shop probably aren't going to be going up significantly. I don't know if the refrigerator may have caused some issues where it kind of changed the way that it operates. So be wary of that. I'm not 100% sure about the refrigeration thing. And I got to be honest, like next year we'll have to just kind of see. I may just stop making blanks in August because the temperatures make it really difficult. It just doesn't work. Like I literally had to do a test after every batch that I poured because and they didn't really look that good. But they're back to normal. Some of them did, some of them didn't. That's why I had to test, each batch. But at this point, I've tested every batch that I've made with the new stuff, and they look fabulous. They're just working great. So, sitting here carving on my ornament. Oh, nice. Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to make. It's tough. We've done the ornament challenge so many times, and I'm like, what haven't I done? What I need to come up with something new. But I've been so focused on this whole, resin thing and pigments and all these things that I haven't had time to really think about it yet. So on the blanks, which end was the topmost? I'm not sure what you mean by topmost. Like in the mold? Topmost. I'm going to go to this view. So this is the bottom of the blank. So I poured it in this way. I'm not sure if that's what you were asking. Bottom, top. On this one, I got to be honest, I don't... maybe you were asking about the pen kit? This would be the cap, and this is the writing side, the body, I guess you would call it. So I'm not sure if that's what you were asking about. Let me know. Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't want to scare people with this temperature thing. For the most part, so one thing that is I'm like 100% sure of, my resin somehow got contaminated. And the biggest question is, I don't know exactly if it was like that when I opened it, like it wasn't my fault, or, like I didn't do anything to it, or it didn't, happen in my shop, or like if it came that way. Because the problem is they sent me the wrong resin and I was using regular clear for a long time. So I don't know what happened. It's not like I started using this resin and things just went, sideways. I don't know what I was using at what point and when things went south. It seems like something happened to the resin in my shop. And so what I think happened, just to let everybody know, what I think happened is on the big, if you buy 10 gallons at a time, I can't really get a camera over there, but you get this big jug thing and it's got a little spout nozzle thing, and then it's also got a breather cap. And I think what happened was the breather cap didn't seal properly on one of the jugs or something, and moisture got in there. And once, the thing is, as far as I know, if you get moisture contamination in your resin, it's done. Like it's not like you can get it out of there. It's gonna physically change the chemical properties of it, and it's not that it didn't work. It worked fine, but it just created weird things. It was kind of foaming up sometimes. I had odd temperature changes. We were kind of talking about how like certain colors may kick a little bit faster, it was all over the board depending on what I was putting in the cup. So like I was just getting really weird things. So if that happens to you, you might have gotten like I think it's a moisture contamination. And so the way to stay away from moisture contamination in your resin, you know, don't leave the caps off your jugs for, you know, very long times, especially if it's humid. Now it's not even humid in my shop really. Like it's like 25, 30% maybe. Ever. Like, I don't know. And one of the problems I have also, excuse me, is I have 3 hygrometers, maybe 4. I've got 3, I think, and they literally are all over the board. This one says 46%. This one, I need to open the app, but it's usually in the 30s. And then my other one over there says 15. So I don't even know what the humidity level is in my shop. At some point there's a way that you can kind of like test them and find out where, you know, if it's off or not. You basically, as far as I know, you put like salt water in like a baggie and then or something, and then kind of stick the hygrometer in with it, and it should be 75%. I guess salt water creates 75% humidity somehow. So look it up online. I need to look and exactly see how to do it. But either way, my humidity levels are never that high in my shop. So even with that, if you leave the cap off for an extended period of time, or somehow moisture can get into it, then you know, it can ruin your resin. So just be careful of that. Really, you know, like just open the part A, pour in the stuff and cap it, and you're fine. I mean, this is the first time it's ever happened to me in 15 years. So something went awry. And like I said, what I think the most logical thing is somehow one of those carboys it had a leak somehow. There was somehow, you know, the moisture got into it just sitting there. And if that was the case, I mean, it would have been open for days, basically, if there was a hole somehow. So just be aware of that. It can screw things up. And it wasn't the refrigerator, I don't think. That's not what, because a lot of people are like, well, that was about when I changed things. But I was getting odd results with stuff that had never gone in the refrigerator. So it was the resin. So anyway, let's stop talking about my stupid resin problems. It's all better now, so I'm happy. Now I got to catch up because I'm running out of blanks because I couldn't keep up with, I couldn't make more, basically. Let's see here. I'm going to scroll up and just see if there's any other questions. You're wearing the same shirt. This is a good shirt. I have all kinds of shirts, and like I have like they're like in a pile, and I found the bottom of the pile, so I've been pulling out some older shirts that I haven't worn for a while. These blanks look awesome. Thank you, Calvin from Colorado. Awesome. Thanks for joining the fun. Let's see here. Scrolling down if there's any other questions. Here now, BC7's turning while you listen. Denver Pen Show, that's cool. I want to go to that sometime. I also want to go to I'm not sure what the name of it is. They just had it, the Wood Turner, like I think it's a symposium, maybe, in Colorado. It just happened not too long ago. Let's see here. Silicone bottle plugs, nice. I like those, but they're kind of messy, and like my way around it is if you just clean the rim off, you're usually okay. I don't know. But those plugs also would be, you know, you're guaranteed that your jug is sealed with the silicone plugs. Let's see here. Oh, the pen is almost done. I can't wait to see it. Me and oh God, I just went blank. Me and Carrie, I just went blank on her name, are probably going to be fighting over it this year. I might let her get it this time. I might have to talk to her. Let's see here. Oh, you got the robin egg blue, the chicken egg blue, if you guys follow the Saturday morning cartoons, which I couldn't talk today, I couldn't chat, but I did have it on in the background, and I saw that he used the chicken egg blue. It is a pretty good color. I mean, that was the first one that I launched or like introduced to the people, because I really like that Tiffany blue, that robin egg blue kind of thing. Rocky Mountain Turners Symposium, that's right. Yeah, I want to go to that sometime too. It looked like it was like a lot of fun. No, it wasn't. Well, see, that's what I mean. Like the resin, it had nothing to do with, and this is not a freezer. Okay, this is I have this set at like 60 degrees. It wasn't that. The one thing that could cause an issue that Chad brought up, though, that I don't think was happening for me. I don't think. Well, like I said, I got the same results using stuff that I'd never put in there. I had jugs that were just room temperature, and it was just warm, and that stuff just kicked fast, and that was not fun either. But one thing that can happen is if you have your resin really cool, like if you put it in like a normal fridge that's like set at like around 40 degrees, and then you pull it out and it's like 90, and the jug sits on the desk for like a while in the 90, you can actually get condensation in your jug. So be careful of that if you are going to chill the resin in any way. Again, pour your resin out and get it back in the jug back in the fridge or whatever it is. So that's why I'm like on the fence with like even recommending chilling the resin, because I've done it for many years with the Alumilite White. But at this point, I don't know. It just sucks when the temperatures get above like 85 in a shop. It makes it really difficult to cast things. And the problem is when you're like swirling things, I just find that you can't, that window where it's like the right consistency is so small that you've got to nail the timing very well. But I will say, if you are working in like pretty warm conditions, I think that you're probably going to get the best results using like mica powders. They don't tend to want to bleed as much as the liquid pigments do. It just kind of depends. Okay. But when it starts getting super, super warm in the shop, it just makes it really difficult. That's the one thing that I will say. So yeah, it looked like a really good one. Oh, Amy's in the house. All right, so I'll quit talking about random stuff, resins and all that stuff. Now that we're going into the fall and winter, you should have it. Well, then a lot of people don't have see, the one thing that I do have is we have a heated shop. So it never, like, I love the 3/4 of the year that it's just 70 degrees or so, 68 to 70. If you do, now go, let's just kind of go full circle. If you're in a shop that is not heated and you're in a pretty cool area where it's like freezing overnight and stuff like that, you don't really want to leave your resin sitting out in that kind of temperature. Bring it in somehow. Try to do something to keep the resin from like getting way cool and then trying to heat it up. The other thing that people do sometimes is they'll like heat the shop when they get in there. And so what's happening is if you're leaving your resin in like a really cold shop, then you're heating it up and it's going flip-flopping a lot. That will shorten the shelf life of your resin quite a bit. And like I said, when you start getting to really low temperatures, I would just bring your resin in somewhere, keep it stored inside, bring it out. Hopefully your shop can kind of warm up a little bit and then work with it there. The other issue with cold temperatures with resin casting is the curing. I really recommend trying to figure out a way to warm up your pots somehow. I should put a link to this on Amazon. This is something I need to add to the casting thing. Can you guys see? Can you guys see this? These are, I don't know what they even call them. It's a heater band thing and I got to be honest, I ran these things in the summer because resin likes warmth. Okay, this does a decent job. Now, if your shop is getting like down to like 30, I don't think this is going to fix your problem. You may need to actually do this plus like a heating blanket and who knows what else. I don't know. You can also even maybe like build a box and try and like keep the box insulated and warmed. Maybe even use like insulating panels, and you can put like a heater, like a heating pad or something like that. But you definitely, worst case scenario, again, you can bring your pressure pot in to the house if you want, and just keep it at that warmer temperature, because what can happen is if the temperature drops too low while before your resin has fully cured, it can just inhibit the curing process completely, and you get like these brittle, chalky blanks that just are terrible. They're not going to cure properly. So just be aware of that in the winter time. The cold temperatures also. Resin likes to be kind of in the middle, and for the curing process, it actually likes to be at the upper end, I would say. So is Chad here too? What's up, Chad? Sweet. The heater band. I will put a link to that. I'm going to go grab a link real quick because I do think it's important. And it's a good thing. It helps. And frankly, I keep them on there because it keeps the pressure pots warmer. Like it's almost post, like in my mind, it's post curing. It's going to speed up the curing process. Even in the summer, I left them on there. Let me go find them for you, and let me grab a link. And like I said, I'm going to add a link to I have Amazon storefronts. I don't know if this is going to, I got to go and find it in my heat belt. Heat belt. Excuse me. Oof. Heat. Let me try heat belt, maybe. Heat. They use them in like fermenting beer and stuff. Heat belt. Let's try that. I gotta look in my old order. There we go. There we go. Okay, I returned that one. So here's a link to these things. They're really awesome. The one thing about them is they definitely draw some power, so that's going to affect your power bill. But here's a link on Amazon to get these things. They work pretty well. Here's the other thing is if anybody does resin 3D printing, the reason I even got into these things was for resin 3D printing. It heats up your vat. The problem is these things are pretty big, so if you've got a really small one, I don't know, you'd be wrapping it around. But for the big vats on like the Saturn size, it fit perfectly. And man, I'll tell you what, if you can get your resin for the resin 3D printing stuff heated up, it prints way better. Like that stuff really wants to be like 85, 90 degrees Fahrenheit. That is like almost the best temperature for that stuff. So if you're into that stuff, it works great for that. And that's what I bought it for originally. Then I was like, oh, it's really cold in the winter. I wonder if I just wrap my pressure pot in it. In the winter, like when it's like 68 degrees, like it'll get the pressure pot up to like probably 80, maybe inside, 75, 80. So that's, I mean, it's a few degrees, but it is helping. Like right now, so it's 69 right now. Let's look, actually. Oh, so it's up to like 90, 92. I think I have a thing on the bottom there. So like, yeah, 80, 85, 90. So just a couple tips for you guys. Definitely does help out. Let's see here. Darren, you can lurk. It's cool, man. I lurked all morning on the Saturday morning cartoons. All right, so let's head over to the lathe and start turning. I'll stop talking about resin stuff. Let's get this pen going. I'm going to start with the body because it's a bigger blank, and I'm excited about it. So, one thing I need to double check. The bushings. I need to look at my kit real quick. Let me get these blanks out of the way. Hold on a minute, guys. I need to look and make sure that I've got the bushings in the right positions. I would imagine that, looks like there's three that are actually, like three of them are the same size. And then one of them is smaller. I would imagine the smallest one is probably the bottom part. But I don't want to just assume that. So I know that the two of the big ones are going to be on the cap for sure. And then I think the center band should, yeah. So that's okay. All right. we got it. Just wanted to make sure. Now, I did mark this, but then I ended up, the tube didn't get glued in the right spot. So even if I tried to get this like perfectly like aligned, there's like a pretty decent gap because I cut it on the table saw, which that's an 1/8 inch or so. 3/16, I don't know. You know, you got the kerf on the blank. Like the best way, if you're really trying to match up like a pattern or something like that, if you've got a bandsaw with a really thin blade, that's the best way to cut a blank in half because there's not much kerf. You're not taking material out on that cut. But so I cut it on the table saw just because it's much easier for me. And actually my bandsaw at this point has a special blade on it that's pretty thick, so I didn't want to switch it out. I wouldn't have really been saving a whole lot of material. I need to get my small bandsaw. I need an upper wheel. I got an old Delta from like 1914. It was my grandpa's. But the upper wheel has a dent in it and it just runs like crap. It's like boop, 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 boop. I need to get a new wheel for it, but I mean, really, it's all original. Even the motor still runs from like strong. I plugged it in, it ran fine. And I'd like to get something that's like from the same time frame, but I gotta find that on eBay or something. So, all right, so let's get this here. Get my dust collector thing. I wish I had it. There we go. Turn that on. Well, and then, so anyway, and then I glued the tube in and it ended up getting kind of stuck, not on the right side. So, I don't really think the patterning in this is going to make that much difference anyway, so I'm not that worried about it. I need to crack, God, that's so loud. Crack the dust collection. It's not so loud up at the cone here. Can't hear myself think. All right, so all right, Chris, enjoy your time. All right. Let me just double check. I think I just cut it away, but yeah, okay. I'm just gonna kind of line everything up by eye when we get there. Cutting pretty good. So that's nice. Now these blanks were made with the new resin from, oh man, from Turner's Warehouse. That's looking good. I'm digging that. Yeah, that would be perfect, Joseph, for like around room temperature for like, and like, you know, there's a lot of resins out there, okay? So typically I'm talking about your standard like casting, you know, urethanes and epoxies that we use for this kind of stuff. Even like a countertop or like river table, you know, all that kind of stuff. If you can keep it around 70, 72, I would really say anywhere between like 60 to 80, that's a good storing temperature. It's when you start getting above that or below that, that it's just not great. And like I said, I actually asked the tech support people at Alumilite many years ago, is like, does high temperatures or low, you know, like kind of, I'm going to use the word extreme, that I'm not talking about like negative below zero, but like, you know, if you're like below 50 degrees or like above 85, you know, somewhere in that range, does that affect the resin more? Like, is it going to be a problem? And really the way that they explained it, I mean, I don't think long-term 100 degrees is really going to be great for it, but the biggest problem is when you go from like, when it experiences big temperature shifts, often, you know, like in the jug. So that's what I was saying, is if it's dropping down, you know, 30 degrees in your garage or shop or whatever, and then you're heating it up to like 70 every day, that's gonna wear on the resin more than just leaving it at like 50 for, you know, a few weeks. But I do think those further extreme temperatures are probably gonna shorten the shelf life a little bit, especially at the higher end. But if you can keep it around room temperature, you're doing great. Your resin's gonna love you. Bit of a bump on this end. That ought to do it. Okay. Let's stop it. We'll give you guys a zoomed in view, sideways view here. Yeah, probably turn the light down just a little bit too. That is looking fire. We got a little bit of green in there, which I like. Just a little bit. We got that red, we got some brown. I love these colors. That's looking pretty darn good, if you ask me. I need to do a little bit. We got a little bit of a bump here. I don't like that. I got the bushings pretty good. I think the end's good. But I just want to kind of smooth out some of, there's a couple little bumps going on along the side of this thing that I don't really love. Alright, so let's see here. A little Yeah, I got a little bit of a bump there too. Let me get the camera a little bit out of my way. That's much better. And then a little bit of bumpiness right there. Smooth that out a little bit. Okay. Let's get this thing sanded up here. Pulling out the lathe, buddy. Digging the new lathe, buddy, guys. I do like the upgraded version. I really like the back of the new backing on these things. Really helps. It just stays in place much better. All right, so I'm going to get some gloves on because my hands just get wrecked with water. Yeah, we're doing a Virage rollerball kit today. Turned the 49er. Nice. It was fire. I love it. Sweet. Satin. Ooh, a satin finish. Nice. I like that. I love those satin finishes. I think I'm going to get some new paper. I don't know. That one looks... I think these guys are okay, but that other one was... I was telling you guys that I turn samples out of... I pretty much had to turn a sample out of every batch of team color blanks that I've been making. And they're soft because I turn them the next day, which I don't recommend. But if all you're doing is trying to see what they look like, not making a pen and trying to worry about the polish and all that stuff, then it's fine. You can turn blanks the next day, but there's issues. I wouldn't do it for like an actual project. And I would stay away from it for pens. Maybe like in 3 days, I think is fine, but all resins shrink just a little bit. Urethanes shrink the least, typically. Epoxies don't shrink a whole lot usually either, but they do shrink a little bit. And so the problem I have is if you like cut it and like glued a tube in, it's gonna shrink a little bit around that tube. And so if it shrinks too much, it may kind of like warp it and be kind of funky when you want to turn it. So I just recommend waiting a few days. Get your resin, pretty well cured. And then the biggest problem is polishing, because if you try and polish it when it's still soft, it's not going to polish so well. I think the best example I can kind of give is like the difference between trying to polish like rubber or like a lot of people say like, taffy versus like hard candy. Hard candy is very glossy, whereas taffy is like dull. You can't polish taffy, it's rubbery. So you'll get your best polish if you wait. But I think it's okay to turn most things probably within about 3 days, especially like Alumilite. Urethane resins have a curing, they don't cure on a straight line. Whereas epoxy does. It cures, like if you look at the curing graph, over 7 days, usually they're like 7-day cure. It cures, on a straight line, straight path, where urethanes cure a lot at the beginning and then kind of taper off a little bit if you look at that graph. So, within 3 days, I don't know what the percentage, it depends on like the temperature and all, there's a lot of things going on, but I think you can kind of safely assume that, like, let's just say room temperature, 70, 72 degrees, you cast it in that and it's curing in that environment. In like 3 days, you're probably close to like 75% cured, you know, maybe 80, possibly something like that. So you're probably okay after like about 3 days to turn something, but you're still going to get like the best polish after like 5 days or whatever, you know. Alumilite clear, slow and clear, have a 5-day full cure schedule. Most epoxies that I've seen have a 7-day cure schedule. And like I said, after the 3rd day, it's 50% cured. Or whatever, 3.5 days. It's kind of a straight line. Okay, that ought to be good. I've sanded that thing to death. Do a little bit of side-to-side action. Oh man, this is going to look pretty good, I think. It's going to look like a pile of leaves. Okay, so we got that done. Moving on to the green. Let's see here. Yeah, awesome people for sure. But I'm kind of pragmatic. I mean, if the, you know, awesome people, but the product sucks, I'm not going to use it. Sorry, you know. Awesome product and awesome people, then it's a no-brainer. Okay, that ought to be good. Again, I like to do a little side-to-side action on each step. And we'll go to the gray. And then I just go after the gray, I go to the magic juice. You could make an argument for going up to the blue Zona paper. That ain't gonna hurt anything, but I think it's kind of repeating steps a little bit. Okay, this thing ought to be pretty well sanded and ready for polishing. Dry that off a little bit. Get this water bucket out of the way. And we'll go grab our magic juices. Wipe my hands off a little bit here. So is it easier to create a satin finish than the first? No, I wouldn't say that. Because the way that you still want it to be hard, I think. When you're sanding and it's softer, it just, the grit, like it can, like maybe 3 days, maybe not a big deal. Like the next day though, it's like so soft that it's almost gummy. And it just doesn't sand well. Things just sand better the harder they are in general. So I would still wait probably. What would worry me is, or what I feel like would happen, it's probably going to be fine, honestly. I mean, we're a little bit splitting hairs. I'm talking about to get the best results, okay? But what I think might happen is that it may not look as good. Like you may see more scratches in it. If you're trying to do a satin finish, you want to try and get that scratch pattern to be not visible. And I think that you're going to get better results overall if you just wait till the full cure. That's my argument. Like I said, I mean, you start to get to the point where you're a little bit splitting hairs with things after day 3. Again, and that's all depending on, you know, like I'm assuming that it's at least like 70, you know, room temperature and all those kinds of things. That 5-day cure time can start extending if you're, you know, starting to drop below 70 degrees, and it can actually kind of accelerate if it's like 85 degrees or higher. And if you post cure blanks, you can cure blanks in like 8 hours, like full cure, if you follow their like plan. I think you need to like heat them up to like 180 or something. I tried that. I don't know. Sounds easier than I think it really is. All right, so I'm going to zoom that up a little bit, get this thing going. I didn't really like going that high. You definitely need to make sure that you leave the blanks in the mold. Otherwise, they're going to kind of warp once it hits those higher temperatures. I think you're better off just kind of going to like maybe 140, 150, 130. I don't know. I don't have a lot of extended experience with post-curing stuff. But you can get it a heck of a lot more cured. And like I was saying, I even put the pressure pots, kept those bands on in the summer, and it was getting up 100 and something degrees in the pressure pot, which is also going to help kind of accelerate things. But you can effectively bake, cure resins and get it, you know, speed up that process a little bit. But I would contact the manufacturer for whatever resin, even Alumilite. Talk to them about it if you're interested in doing that. Just because I think I don't know what I'm doing with it. I'm definitely no expert at post-curing blanks. I think some of the other blank makers do that, like, for sure. So if you can talk to somebody else maybe that makes blanks, they might be willing to share information about how they do it. Possibly. Some folks don't like sharing though. So just be aware of that. And so what I'm using to do this polishing is these little microfiber cleaning cloths that I found. And I do have these linked. So in the description below on this video, there's a link to the Amazon storefronts. And this is under the polishing, I think, sanding and polishing stuff. I got these on Amazon, and I think these work pretty well. I think it's a reasonable alternative to trying to cut up like real microfiber towels. Those things are just, they fray. These things don't fray or anything, but they are non-scratch. They seem to work pretty well. And they're small enough. Now this thing is not going to tear, so there's risk involved with using something like this to polish. If it does wrap up, kind of get caught, it will wrap up. I just think that you can cut it so small that it's really not going to be very dangerous. It's not going to grab your finger, most likely. But you'll have to make that call. Paper towels definitely are not going to they're not going to hurt you. They're going to rip first. All right, so we're on step 4 here. Get to step 5. Mike's here, what's up? Saw a video today, person putting a fan next to a pressure pot after putting in some resin object. A fan. I don't know. If it was hot, they may be trying to keep it cooler, I guess, but I don't really think that's going to significantly do anything temperature-wise, most likely. So I don't know. You got me. Maybe it was like some sort of a heater fan. I could maybe see that being somewhat useful. Maybe. Best thing that I've seen, if you're dealing with cold temperatures, I think the best option that I've seen people do is like a heating blanket that's like made to be like left on. It's not just like, you know, pull the blanket out of your off your couch. There are like heater blankets, like insulating blanket things that are meant to be left on like that. I think for like reptile tanks and different stuff. I don't think I'd feel particularly comfortable just sticking a blanket and leaving it on. Those things are kind of janky. I like those strap things. Those things are, again, meant to be left on things, pots like that for like fermenting and all that. You can even put a little like the reptile heating pad things underneath your pot in addition to the band. I think the band works a lot better. Those little under the heating, under the pot things, reptile pads, they generally don't have a lot, they don't add a lot of heat. They also consume a lot less power, but they just don't really, because I used to use those back in the day, and like that would kind of sort of warm the pot up, but it wasn't particularly significant. But you could like do both. And if you're literally leaving it out in a unheated at all shop, like and it's getting really cold, I think building some sort of a box that you can kind of regulate the temperature in a little bit, is like an insulated box around your pressure pot, is probably going to be your best bet if it's literally like 30 degrees in your garage, in your shop. So let's take a look at this. What do you think? Kind of gotta, I think I might have to take it off because that, oh, it's okay. There's like a line going across there. Those colors are pretty wicked. Now, I think what I did was just use kind of a straight stick to kind of swirl this. If you had like a bent stick, you'd get more swirling going on. If you poured a little earlier, you might get a little bit more kind of bleeding together, which might be kind of cool too. So there's a few different things you could do with these, you know, with any blanks really, but you know, a little bit of color bleed, like mixing together of colors kind of. I think on something like this, okay, you know, I wouldn't mind that much. But if you also wanted to go for more like swirling and stuff, you can also do that as well. I really like these colors. They really go together well. I like the little tiny bits of green. That's kind of cool. There's not a lot of green in this blank. I think other ones, because I think we did equal amounts. So like other blanks are probably going to have slightly different little mixtures of stuff. That's pretty neat looking. I mean, that looks like a fall harvest if I ever saw one. Bag of leaves. So as always, I like to like wipe off. Usually there's like a little bit of polished gunk on the ends. Get that all clean. And then we'll set this guy aside and go to this one. Now there might be more green in this top part, possibly too. We'll get that guy set up. Oh, helps to lock the tailstock down. There we go. Okay. See if there's any questions going on in here. Definitely fall. Nice. But yeah, you could do like, I don't know how much power a light bulb, like how much heat it gives off. Because I know that that's a thing for certain, like you could keep your resin in something like that. I think that would be good. I'm not sure that it would be warm enough. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like a light bulb is going to really heat things up that much, but maybe it would. Like I really think you could just get like insulation panels, you know, like at the home store, get like the insulation panel things, and then just kind of build a box out of that, and then, you know, between like a heating pad thing underneath at the, you know, under the pot, plus like a band around. I mean, that seems like it would be pretty good. I don't know. I don't know how much heat you can retain in there, I guess. I've never tried any of these things, like I said. We keep the shop temperature at 68 in the winter, so it doesn't really drop below, like, you know, fluctuating 67 at the lowest, and then it can go up to, you know, 70, 72 throughout the year, spring and fall sometimes. Obviously it can go higher than that too, but generally in like the winter it's like 67 to 70. And I just leave those bands on. It usually gets it up around 80 something in the pots, which, like I said, just kind of helps with the accelerating the cure a little bit. And I do that just so that I don't have to wait as long before I can ship blanks out, because I won't ship blanks. I mean, realistically, I would wait 5 days. That's what I used to do. I was looking into trying to post cure blanks last winter. I didn't love it. It just like, I don't know. So I decided to just get these little band things and see how hot I can get it. Like if I can get it to like 90 while it's curing, like think about overnight. I mean, that's giving it a pretty good acceleration. And then at that point, like after 3 days, probably 4, if I need to ship them, I will. But I've run into issues. When I first started casting, I would ship blanks like the next day, and it was like cold in the shop. It would be like pretty, like, because I finally had to convince my dad to just leave the heater on. He didn't realize that like that was probably cheaper than, he would come in, we would turn it off, and it would probably never get below like 50, 40 something, 45, 50. But then he'd come in and like blast the heater for like hours every day and then turn it off. And then have to blast it in the afternoon sometime. And I'm like, why don't you just leave it at like 67? It's probably going to be cheaper in the long run. So that helped things out a little bit. But originally when I first started selling blanks, like it would do that kind of over, you know, fluctuation thing. And I'd ship blanks like the next day and they would be like not cured. And they would be like crumbly, dusty, like they would kind of crumble sometimes. They were pretty bad. that was mostly with Alumilite white blanks, and those things cure in 3 days. So I just said, okay, I just won't ship them until they're ready. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Tim does. I think Jonathan Brooks does, if I'm not mistaken. Honestly, I may be one of the only people that like really sells blanks that doesn't post cure. I don't think Cocoon does, but I don't know. One of the reasons I never did it is because I didn't know if there was if it would affect anything with the properties of the blanks. And I'm pretty sure it doesn't, but I don't know. I kind of doubt that Tim's going to tell you anything about how he does his blanks. Just as a fair warning. Especially like if he doesn't know you. I don't know. That's the feeling I get. I don't think he's going to be like, oh, let me tell you how I do my stuff. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know him that well, but I don't know. If you do, what I recommend is if you do reach out to somebody who, does this for a living or is really running a business, making and selling blanks, be very courteous and be ready for them to say, sorry, I'm not doing that. I'm not telling you. I'm pretty open to sharing most things with people, but I will tell you what, I have had a few people who wanted my like a specific team color recipe, dye recipe, and I was like, no. And they got like mad at me, like I owe them, and I'll tell you what, that is not the attitude to we're gonna get nowhere with that kind of attitude. And another one is, don't say something like, well, it's just for me, or whatever. I don't want to sell blanks. It doesn't really matter. It's kind of like, if you think about it, it'd be like walking into McDonald's and being like, what's the secret to the Big Mac? What's your recipe? I only want to make it at home. You know, they're going to be like, right, okay. So just, you know, be nice. A lot of people will share and help out. That is one of the nice things. There's a lot of people that will definitely help out. They won't share certain things, like I don't, you know, I'm not going to share my team color recipes, but they'll help you if you have an issue with casting in general a lot of times. All right, so I think I want to do a little bit more work on this. I'm going to pull out the, where's it at? There it is. I'm going to pull out this is my negative rake square guy. I'm just going to kind of smooth this up a little bit. Hopefully. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Let me stop this guy, get you guys on this side here, take a peek at it. A little bit more green in this end. That's pretty cool. These look pretty good. I like this length. I think I got the ends pretty good here. Maybe not the greatest shaping, but I think the sandpaper will kind of help clean it up a little bit. All right, so let's turn off the dust collector. God. It's always making a lot of noise. And we'll get our papers here. Let's see. Yeah, Tim's not using Alumilite. I think he uses thermoset. I tried it out when I was having issues with my resin. Some people were claiming that it works better. I don't I don't know about that. It's fine. I think Alumilite turns better. The thermoset was a little bit not bad. It just felt like more dense. Like kind of stringier, like the ribbons would really get stuck, you know, and not want to break off at all. But it was a pretty decent resin. They got a lot of different options. That company contacted me like 15 years ago, or 8 years ago, and I tried their stuff out, and it works pretty good. One advantage, I guess, to that is it supposedly has a little bit better UV inhibitors. I don't know about. I've had mixed results because, like, I had that gear shift knob in my truck, which experienced lots of hot temperatures, cold temperatures, sun. Somebody brought up an interesting fact that the glass in a car probably blocks a lot of the UV radiation. I didn't think about that, but I mean, it's still clear, dead clear, but I got stuff that's in my shop that like was in like a drawer that's yellow. So I don't know, just depends. And then I have other things that are supposed to resist yellowing more that have yellowed. There's no way to really not have a resin yellow. They all do eventually, depending on how much, I guess, UV radiation it's exposed to. One thing that I believe might have something to do with resin yellowing in the shop, I think fluorescent lights might give off UV, possibly, or something. I don't know. Does anybody know about that? So like even indoors, like your clear resin may be getting affected by stuff. The drawer thing, I don't know about that. Some of those things are really old though. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't, like I said, didn't really see a big difference. Oh, Kev was asking about post-cure. Post-cure is like basically like baking the resin, the blanks. So you basically, you do the same normal stuff, put it in the pressure pot. When it's ready to take out of the pressure pot, you pull it out. But you would leave it in the mold and then put it in an oven. And you post-cure it, which is like exposing it to a higher temperature. I want to say that Alumilite clear, I think it's in the directions, honestly. Oh shoot, did I throw that away? I'm gonna go pull it up. I think they literally tell you. Most resins, reputable companies, will tell you, typically in the directions, but you may have to contact the company to see what they recommend. I'm gonna pull out because I just bought a new thing, and it had instructions. Let's see, pour and cure. Here we go, heat curing. And they also recommend anything less than 1/8 inch, they recommend you post-cure it. First, they say, generally for most applications, ambient temperature curing is adequate. However, maximum physical properties and heat resistance is obtained by post-curing for 16 hours at 150 degrees Fahrenheit, or for 6 to 8 hours at 180. Parts may require some support during heat curing. That's why you want to leave it in the mold. And they say a suggested cure schedule is 3 to 5 days at room temperature okay, that makes sense. To minimize any softening during heating, followed by 4 to 6 hours at 130 to 150. This cure schedule minimizes part distortion and shrinkage while affording maximum toughness and heat sag resistance. Supporting the part during the post-cure may be necessary. So you can do that. Like I said, what I was trying to do was like speed up the process. I would rather pull it out of the pot and then, which I would typically leave them in the pot overnight. Anyway, it just worked out easier for me a lot of times that way. So, but for me to leave it sitting around for 3 to 5 days, then post-cure it, okay, I don't see the point. I don't have any issues with my blanks. There's no sagging or heat deflection. I don't need more of any of that stuff. So the only reason I would post-cure it is to speed up the curing process. But what I found was you got a lot of, like the first attempt that I did was I put it in we have an oven, like one of those, what do they call those things? Like a lab oven. And I tried 180 first for, whatever that I don't know, I think I did it for like 5 hours or something. What I found was they warped even in the mold. I didn't like it. So then I tried like 150. And one of the issues that I have though is our oven, my dad uses that. He bakes parts that he uses to make his watch wrench things. he bakes them with like a bunch of WD-40 on them. And my problem is I actually think that I was getting some sort of a weird contamination going on with the resin because it isn't fully cured, right? I don't know. I just stopped doing it. I didn't find it super helpful. I can just wait 5 days. It's fine. 4 or 5. And that's why I thought, well, okay, like a nice alternative to maybe kind of speed, and it does definitely speed things up a little bit. You can tell a difference between blanks that are just left in the pot at 68 degrees in my shop and ones that I take out and turn that were in a pot with the heater band thing. And that's only going up to like 90 or something like that, you know, I mean, maybe 95 at the most. So it's not significant. That's just while it's in the pressure pot itself. But there's definitely a difference. Like it's harder, it's more cured. And I thought, okay, well that'll just give me a little bit extra cure. If I have to, I can probably ship blanks in 3 or 4 days instead of 5. You have some secrets to your stuff. Yeah, people, you know, I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, we figure things out. We're not going to share with everybody. A lot of this stuff, like, you know, how to use resin, little tips and tricks on not getting totally screwed. My thing is, most people that I share things with, like, they're not going to compete with me in any way. They're not going to tell all their buddies how to do things, you know, whatever. The people that that are actually like a competition, if I was, you know, if I'm worried about people taking market share away from me or something like, I don't know, something like that, those people are going to figure it out anyway. A lot of the things that I'm sharing. So like, who cares? That's my take on a lot of it. Now, my specific dye recipes, I'm not going to share that for 2 reasons. One, it took me a lot of work to figure them out, and 2, it's, you know, people can figure out their own color recipes, I think. You know, why do you need mine? Mine might not even be right, you know? Oh yeah, the card blanks. Playing cards. I think, who made the Patterson, Grant? He's actually done a video on how to do it, I think, at this point. Well, and that's, you know, that's the problem. That's another problem, right? Like, I might have figured something out, but someone else could also figure it out just as easily, I'm sure, and then post it, and then what? Then I'm screwed, you know? Or so I'd rather just not get too upset about it. Again, most people are probably not going to like take your market share away. If you're good at marketing, that's not going to be a problem. Marketing, customer service, all those things, I think are better than some secret sauce. Is CA a resin? Yeah, I wouldn't really call it a resin. It's kind of similar, I guess, in a way, but it's not really. It's different. Definitely like a different product compared to your casting resins are generally going to be either an epoxy-based thing, a urethane-based thing, or a polyester resin-based thing. There are a couple other things out there too, but generally casting resins are going to be one of those three things. CA glue is cyanoacrylate, which is a totally different chemistry. And it's also just a, you don't have to mix it and do anything like that. So it's different from resins. 5-minute epoxy is no different than casting resins. It's kind of the same thing. UV resin is also in there. It just cures with, UV light, but it is a close cousin to casting resins, I would say. What am I doing? Okay, I got to think here. Thinking about resins and not doing what I need to do. We're going to do some magic juice. Got to cut a couple more of these little squares here. And so, like I said, these little microfiber towel things that I'm using to apply the magic juice, these are already linked. If you go into the description, video description, and there's like a Amazon storefronts, there's one for, there's a link to the sanding and polishing stuff that I get on Amazon, and these are in there already. There's not a lot of stuff. Like a lot of the stuff that I use, honestly, is from Turner's Warehouse. So, but there are a lot of little random things that I buy from Amazon, little supplies and things. Let's see here. Yeah, collaboration, I think, definitely works better. You don't want to help them figure it out. Yeah, some people don't. No yellowing with CA. No, I think it repels that pretty well. Yeah, so when you look at all the, when you can go in, well, at this point, it seems like a lot of the resin companies are like hiding some of these things. It's like go through and like look at all the specifications and things. Heat deflection and, there's a lot of like things, characteristics that are like a, quantifiable characteristic that they tested. And you can kind of compare those things. And like, I find that epoxy, it's got like which and I'm not an expert on this at all, but I want to say that heat deflection is one of those characteristics. And I'm pretty sure most epoxies are like low compared to like urethanes. Because that stuff, it'll just bend. I mean, I've literally had things like warp while I was like sanding it, and my headstock, I think my spindle bearings are kind of messed up again. So like my headstock gets pretty warm, and like I've had like handles like warp that were made out of epoxy before on my lathe, just from the heat transfer from the headstock to the through the mandrel into the blank. Like, it's crazy. So yeah, typically I think epoxies are a little bit lower on that scale. Most of them, but that you can't just generalize. You can't just say, well, epoxy is softer. It depends on the specific product. They all have different characteristics. You can chemically alter things to have different, characteristics when cured. Generally, though, I do find urethane-based, like the ones that we all use, they tend to be a little bit like stiffer, I guess, whatever. Yeah, like I don't want to say like harder. It just has slightly different characteristics. And there is, it's hard to point to one thing. Hardness is really not the thing that's, you know, a lot of people talk about like brittle blanks, and it's really not like the hardness. It's a multitude of factors that actually contribute to that like brittleness. And so, again, hardness isn't, on its own, is not necessarily like a smoking gun for how things work. One factor that I found is a lot of the resins will give you an elongation percentage factor, and I actually think, I don't know exactly what that is exactly, but that one seems to contribute. Like I've looked at that kind of stuff, the specs for the 3D print resins, and the ones that have a higher elongation percentage generally turn better and all that kind of stuff. They're not brittle. Same with blanks typically. So that works into it. The heat deflection thing can kind of work into the factors. Hardness does also. You know, a harder resin is going to be harder. But there's lots of them. And then there's like tensile strength and all these other things. And it gets mind-boggling after a while. Bacteria. back to the sea. If you it says bacteria, that's funny. Oh, you got. If you finish your resin with CA, does that? Yeah, that will help with the yellowing. If you can put something over it that doesn't, that repels the UV stuff, it can kind of help. So I'm not an expert on that specifically, but so anybody in the chat, if you have maybe more knowledge about this, but typically you can coat something and also help prevent that. But it's inevitable. Eventually resins yellow. They just will over time. I don't know. There's been a few companies that have made claims that it will not yellow ever. And I just don't. Another person that knows quite a bit about this stuff is Curtis Seebeck. And he's even said there's no such thing. Maybe somebody figured it out, I don't know. But my biggest thing with the yellowing is it's not that big of a problem usually. If you're doing like a handle blank or something like that, or like one of the flower blanks, things that are clear like that, I would recommend going with something that will give you more UV protection in the resin itself. It just makes sense, you know. But for like pen blanks, if you're putting a bunch of mica powder and stuff in it, like the yellowing thing is not a thing. It just doesn't. It's not going to affect your blanks. So I don't know that it's really that necessary, depending on what you're doing, to worry about it. All right, so final step here. Good old step 6. Everybody's favorite, I think. Yeah, label cast, that's definite. But even, I mean, there's a lot of people that use Alumilite for labels, and it's not that huge a deal. I would not recommend using the slow for labels personally. because such small amounts, it's not really, it doesn't handle that very well, and it tends to get white streaks in it. But there definitely, I think there's better options for doing clear casts like that. Okay, let's see here. I actually have a little, I'm gonna wipe it off with this. I forgot that I have my little yellow towel here for wiping off the number 6 a little bit. I think I'm gonna give the other one a little wipe down. Just for good measure, you know. Yeah, this one's definitely got a little bit more of that green in there. I like it. Kind of like that, you know, the two halves are a little bit different too. It's not just kind of homogeneous. There's a word of the day, homogeneous. Okay, look at that. Yeah. I think this is going to be a winner. I have no clue which end of this these met up at, so I wasn't that worried about that anyway. Like I said, by cutting it and the way that I cut it and all that, there was really no way that I was going to match up any kind of swirl patterns. But the way that I poured these, I didn't think there was really going to be significant patterning that I needed to kind of worry about. So in this case, what I'm going to do is just look at these things. The body half has to be one way, but I can flip the cap whichever way I want. They're both the same size on each end. And I'm going to just kind of take a peek at the blank, see how it lines up best, and just call it a day. Because I don't really think it's going to matter that much anyway. Okay, so let's see here. Just getting all my stuff ready so we can assemble. Getting the stuff. All right, so let's go to this view. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And get it centered a little bit for you guys. I hope he remembers to change cameras. Well, it's hard to not change the cameras when I come back because I got a big screen in front of me, so I know when I'm messing up. Add a drop or two of blue. Oh, that's true. Yeah. Amy and Chad are out of here. Cool. Thanks for joining the fun, though. Hope you guys have a good day. All right, so let's put this thing together here. Let's see. We got a lot of parts. Let me get I like to get the parts kind of arranged so I can see what I'm doing. Here's the bottom part. Put the spring down in there. Here's the in-between thing there. This thing and then this thing. Okay, not too bad. We got our ink. All right, so I'm going to look at my blank here. See if there's a particular way that seems to work best, or that it is seemingly obviously that's the way it should go. Possibly like that. Let me flip it over here. Yeah, I think it goes like this. Kinda. Doesn't really match up spectacularly well. Might have actually gone this way. I don't know. This is the way that it's supposed to, that I need to do it. So, I think I like this. It's not perfect, but it's close. Wow, that's really tight. All right, so I'm going to start with this guy. Ow. I'm going to do two passes here. Oof, that's tight. Ooh, man. All right, got that. Whew, that was a tight one. And then I'm going to do this side. Actually, I want to do, I'm going to line it up here. Hopefully. There we go. So I wanted to do it like this. Right about like that. Okay. Whew, man, these are really tight. Oh, that's going in totally crooked. Whew. Okay, try that again. There we go. Got that. I'm not going to worry about, I never worry about how it lines up on the posting side. I don't know. You could do that if you wanted, but I just don't know. That's a big deal. Oh, that thing kind of popped in there. Okay, so we'll drop our ink in. Oh, I got to put a little bit of wax on there. You could use a wax for this. You could use what is this stuff called? The silicone stuff. What is that stuff? Stuff that they put on fountain pens. I can't think of the type of silicone that it is. Doesn't take much. Just a tiny bit on the threads there. That'll keep it from squeaking. We don't want it squeaking. I think I might have bent the threads on this thing. Dang. Yeah, that thing was so tight, I think I bent the threads on this. Wow. That's why Chad puts a collar around it. Well, Maybe not. Maybe they were already kind of messed up. Got kind of a weird lip on it. I am going to get my magnifying glasses out and look at this a little bit, because there's something kind of funky going on the end of this. I don't know if it was there before I assembled it or not. So, yeah, it's like the thread. Thread came off. Huh. Well, that's junk. All right, we're gonna have to redo this. Do I have another one? I think we might have to swap it out for the silver. I might be able to fix this a little bit, but I don't think I can show you guys, but this thing got kind of jacked up. I don't know if you can see that, but the thread got kind of like peeling apart. Yeah, it's messed up. So I'm gonna disassemble this thing. That might be really difficult to disassemble. It's hard to assemble. In the future, if you're having as much difficulty as I was, you can oftentimes like sand the components, like where it's going in. I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal, but if the other one's super tight, I think I'm actually going to sand it down to make it work a little bit easier. So I'm just taking a hammer and a punch, and I'm going to take this apart. I think I'm going to have to beat the heck out of this to get it apart. Man, it's not even moving. Yeah. I got to go with a different kit anyway, so if I totally demolish all these other parts, I don't really care. I think I had a punch that fit this over here. We're going silver, guys. We're going silver. Sometimes, you know, you get a kit. I might have done that when I was assembling it, possibly. I don't know. I was having some issues. So we're just going to chuck this kit. Goodbye. I don't even know where that other part went. All right, so let's go with silver. What do you guys think? Who wants to see silver? All right. I'm just glad that I had another one. Silver will be okay. Oh shoot. Something that I don't love about these, they give you the threads and the part separate, which is kind of odd to me. I don't know. So I recommend gluing it. I did this before, like yesterday on the other kit. So what I'm going to do is I just have a little bit of CA glue here, and I'm just going to put a little dab. It'll maybe stay together, but I kind of doubt it. I'm just going to put a little drop and kind of spread it around. These super tiny tips from Starbond really make this kind of work awesome. And we'll just push that together. And it should be good. I would prefer to just not mess with that for like an hour, but since we're trying to assemble a pen here, I will have to try and line it up and everything. Let's see, I gotta find a punch for this. I'm just not wanting to come out. Maybe shouldn't have thrown all those parts away. Man, that is not budging. Let's see. It's kind of surprising. So this part is just not really wanting to come out. I think part of the problem is there's like this plastic, I'm beating on this plastic thing, which is probably just crumpling and not pushing the actual part out. But I don't know what happened to, oh, I know, it's maybe on the ground. I beat the other side of this thing out. If I put the other side of it in, it might come out, but it went flying when I disassemble. Oh, there it is. All right, so let's try the. Oh, that's not exactly the part, but I'm going to put the other side of this in, and maybe it'll disconnect. Oh, the spring came out. Man. Is it coming out? Doesn't look like it's coming out at all. Wow. This one's tough. All right, so this thing might help. I might have to I think I'm gonna have to use this thing because this is actually a take it apart tool. I gotta figure out, I can't exactly remember how to do this thing. Hoping that this will allow me to kind of ram it out instead of what I was doing there. So the way that, oh, this thing is, that sucks. You're supposed to put this thing, which is all crumbly and cracking, around your blank. That's not going to work though. Oh, I do have some more. That's a little bit better. Okay. So you put this around the blank, put this in this thing. I think it's too much. And so that holds your blank in place. I think I'm going to have to go the other way though. Need to put it this way. And then you cinch it down. Not too tight. Just tight enough. And then, let's see here. I think you use this thing. This is the only thing that I'm not 100% sure on. I haven't used this in a long time. It's usually just beating it out with the hammer tends to work. I think you use this thing. That's not the right size. Okay. Let me give it just a little bit of finger help also. Let's see if that did anything. I don't know, guys. We may not be able to. Get this thing put together. That didn't do anything. Huh. Let me try. I'm going to try and get rid of that plastic thing inside there, and then hopefully I can just lock on to maybe not. Might have to God, I might have to drill this out. Huh. Well, this isn't exactly what I was hoping for with this, but I'm gonna go back to the hammer. Let's see what you guys have to say about it. Yeah, I got a pretty big hammer. I mean, that thing's got some weight behind it. The hard part about this is like holding onto the blank while you're beating it, you know. I've got a little mini sledge thing. Let's see if that does anything. Somewhere. I just want to see what it looks like, you know? Oh shoot, where's my little... Not where it's supposed to be. My dad probably used it. All right, back to the hammer. It is just not, it's not budging, guys. Okay, we're gonna have I'm gonna deal with this later sometime. We're just gonna see what this stupid pen looks like for now. Putting the other parts together. Because I can't get that thing out. I don't know. See if the threads even work at all. I've been beating the heck out of this, and these threads actually still work. That plastic piece is pretty resilient. Okay, so let's see. We can put these parts on. So this thing, and I'm going to get a little plastic ring that goes around. Because like I said, I don't know if I... Oh, this is not working. I don't know if I did that or if it was like that already. Okay. Get this thing fixed, I think. Let's see how this one works. Not so bad. That one wasn't as tight. But for this one, I'm going to get a little plastic ring that goes around the threads. And they don't look, there's nothing wrong with them. Hopefully I have one that fits. I think I've got a little wood block here with a hole in it. Let's see what... I got a few different little things here. So I got a plastic piece, but the threads don't fit in there. I got a couple of wooden things. That's too big. That's pretty good. I'm going to go this way, actually. I think this is the reason that Chad uses the Miles. I think it's the Miles Craft press. Because I think it's got all this stuff kind of built into it somehow. So that's something to keep in mind. You can just make your own little covers, but... All right, so where's all my parts here? No, I didn't line that up, but whatever. Close enough. Actually, that looks pretty good. Somehow I pushed that in like exactly where it was supposed to go. Well, there's something. Something went right. All right, so now let's see, where do we want to put this thing? I think like that. What do you guys think? I like seeing that kind of green. But also that like red swoop right here. I think right there. Look at that. And we'll do, I got to put a little bit of the, it's almost unnoticeable that there's a gunmetal thing there, although I think when you put this together, it'll be pretty apparent. Whatever. I need a little bit of wax here. Put that on the threads. And I need my spring. Oh. Drop that down in there. And we got an ink. Ooh, nice. Okay. It ain't perfect, but it's there. There's like, you know, it's a triple start, so you can technically put it in a couple different positions, but that's the one that I like right there. Not bad. I like that blank a lot. I'm not digging the I'm not digging the gunmetal and chrome middle parts, but it'll just have to be like that, I think, because I don't really want to have to demolish this thing. I think, honestly, I think I'd actually have to drill this thing out, which holding the blank without scratching the heck out of it would be kind of difficult to do. But overall, so like I was saying, compared to like a junior, let me go grab a junior. I'm even going to grab a cigar to kind of compare. I really like the, let's see, where's the junior type thing? I really like the Virage kits because, ooh, that's a nice one. Because they're just a little bit smaller, you know? And I tend to make my blanks a little bit bigger, but fatter. I leave more on. I don't just make them straight. But you know, compared to like a cigar, it's just a little bit smaller than a cigar even. And then if you put a junior next to it, I mean, it's like way smaller than a junior. So it's a light kit. It's a smaller grip kit. I don't know. I always liked the Virage roller balls, and they also make a fountain version as well. Luckily, you can barely tell that there's gunmetal. You know, if I was trying to be perfect, I'd be like I could say it's a design feature. I like those colors though. What do you guys think? Intro cam. The blank turned out well. Not too bad, guys. Not too bad. So like I was saying, if you're going to make something like that, you know, I shared the colors. I don't know that like you have to go and buy Aztec gold necessarily. I think that is a very good color for this type of thing, but I think you could probably mix. If you didn't have that and you're like, I don't necessarily need to go find some special thing. I think what you could probably do is like put orange with gold together in the same cup. And you could probably get something similar by doing that. Or if you've got Alumilite dyes, I think if you put gold in the cup, the whatever gold mica powder you have, and then added orange dye to that, I think you could probably also get a similar tone. But man, that just looks like that's pretty good. The green, I think you could go with, many different colors of green there. And the red also, most of the reds out there are in that tone. And even if you use like Yamagata, I think that it's a little bit brighter, but I think it would work just as well also. If you wanted to make it a little bit more burgundy, you could add a little bit of, you'd have to really sneak up on it, add a little bit of blue dye in with your Yamagata, and that would make it a little bit more like burgundy kind of. So there's lots of different ways that you can get kind of the same thing. Virage, V-I-R-A-G-E. Yeah, so in there, like I said, there's two different Virage kits. There's a single blank. This is the rollerball version, which is different. So where did I put that? I like the single blank one too. It's a pretty good kit. Many of the Sierra variants, they're different kind of, but they all look the same. You know, this is a Sierra variant, but you know, it's quite a bit different with these shapes, the curves and everything. So the Virage single blank kit is a pretty good one, I think. I like that one too, but then this one's the Virage rollerball. And there's some similarities to it, but they are definitely different. A little bit. Virage rollerball. And like I said, you can also get, I'm almost 100% certain you can get this in a fountain as well. There we go. That's the way I like it. Not too bad, not too bad. There you go, there you go. All right, well, we had a little bit of a hiccup on the putting it together thing, but it's a good thing. Like I said, I don't know if I was having some issues lining that, like putting it in when I was, I kind of took the little component part and I twisted it into the threads before I even started assembling, and it was kind of wonky. So I don't know, guys. I really actually think that thing might have been jacked up. It may have had like something wrong with it, and then I just kind of killed it. So not a bad idea to get, if you're pressing things like that, maybe get some little ring things. You can just take a piece of wood or whatever. I really should make some of these things. That way you can kind of go around your threads and not be pressing on them, because it can, I mean, I gotta be honest, that's like the first time that's ever happened to me, but you know, it can screw up your threads, especially I would say if you're like really, you got something stubborn that doesn't want to press and you're like, you know, doing what I was doing. So hopefully it'll help. Yeah, it is postable. This is a good one for, I don't like posting typically. I find that you post the cap and all the weight's on the back. This one, again, because it's a little bit on the lighter end, it's still, when you got your hand up here, this thing feels like it's falling off the back of your hand. So it's up to you if you like posting. I mean, I think that's probably just a personal thing, but it does post. I don't like it. It feels funny when I write with them. Yeah, you know a guy that can make them. Make what? Oh, for the little ring doohickeys? These little plastic things? That would be pretty cool, a set of those. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Like I said, I think you could probably just get away with picking up a piece of wood, or if you can find some little plastic pieces. This came in like furniture or some random thing. I would have to drill that out, but that would be pretty cool to make a little set of those things. I don't know if my problem is there's like different sizes, so I'd have to kind of figure that out, but that's not a bad idea. I would totally buy those things. I gotta be honest, I personally prefer a vertical press machine. I liked this one because it disassembles things, but obviously if it's stuck in there, this thing, you know, if you can't get it with a hammer, that thing's probably not taking it apart. So I don't know. Chad has, I think it's the Milescraft version of the press, and it works really well. And I think it actually does come with those little, I don't know if he made them. I think it comes with like little cap things possibly. So that's another way to go. I don't know, guys. Anyway, I should probably get going. I got to make a ton of blanks and get my inventory stocked back up again. But pretty soon I should have the Seahawks blanks back in stock and the Jets. I mean, technically they're made. I just need pictures and stuff. So those two should be back. I'm trying to think. I'm out of a few of them. The Wyoming, University of Wyoming, or the Padres colors, the brown, yellow, and white. Those are on the way. I got to kind of work on a couple little test things with those, but they should be pretty cool, and they should be coming soon. So yeah. So anyway, guys, that's about all I got. We'll be back, like I said, next week. We'll cast some blanks, or if I think of what I want to do for the ornament, maybe we'll cast that. We'll see. I don't know what we're going to do exactly, but it'll be a casting thing. And then the week after that, I'm going to be out of town. So we're going to have to come back the week after and finish it up. So it should be pretty cool. So anyway, guys, thanks for joining the fun tonight. A few hiccups, but the blanks look good. And so these are going to be going in the Pen Blank Club boxes. And then whatever else we make this month will also go in there. So it should be pretty cool. But anyway, I hope everybody has a great evening tonight. And I'll see you guys on the next stream.